Welcome. So here we are on Module 8. Now Module 8, it should be less complicated, less material than Module 7 was. And Module 7 is one of a couple of substantial modules. So now here we are in functions. And functions are something that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. We just look at them in a different way and may even take them for granted. Now, one of my favorite analogies when it comes to what a function is our way of outsourcing work to something else. I don't want to have to do the work. I can give something else whatever it needs to perform the task for me, and it'll take care of it for me. And it's kind of like, let's say I need to get a tree cut down in my front yard. As long as I know who I can contact, what they require of me and in what form it needs to be in, what they're going to do for me or give me in return, I can interact with them or work with them and get the job done. Now that's something we do all the time. If you go to McDonald's and get lunch, you outsourced the whole process of cooking a meal. You had somebody else do it for you. They expected something from you, and it had to be in a certain form. So you can't just pull up and say, here's a bag of rocks, I need a Big Mac. What you give them has to be in a particular form. If I went to Publix and wanted to pay for the meal or pay for my groceries with Canadian money, well, yeah, it's dollars, but not US dollars or Canadian dollars. It may be a dollar, but it's not the same thing. Okay, so the form that these things are in is important. And when I say form, I primarily mean the data type. Now, we've dealt with this in the past when it came to typecasting, and we received some value from a function that we called. Or some may call it, invoking the input function. And I can use the input function to get something from the user. So I outsourced the task associated with acquiring data or interacting with the user. It's almost like having a customer service rep. What's that customer service rep require from me? It needs a little script, what to say to the user. Okay, and then what happens? Well, it's going to get whatever the user typed in, and it's going to pass it to me. Well, what form is it going to be in? It's going to be in a string. So this is where that comes into play, knowing what it's going to require from me and what it's going to give me back. Or if we think about a print function, and we've used that a number of times, it's built-in function. The print function requires something from me, what it is that I want printed. And then it goes and does the work. It doesn't return me or give me anything back. It does a service, much like my lawn guy cutting a tree down. He doesn't give me anything back. He performs a service. So we'll look at it as two types of functions. One that returns something, and the other just performs a task. Now, if it's returning, and I'll talk about it in an upcoming video, if it's returning, I need to know what form that's going to be in. Okay, so we have used a bunch of different functions. They're built into the Python libraries. We can create our own functions and break our code down into little compartmentalization. You may have heard that going to say it's a joke, but it's somebody will say, oh, it's like eating an elephant. It's just one bite at a time. You break it down into little smaller things, and it doesn't seem like such a big task. We can do that with our code. We break the project down into small components, and then we tackle them one at a time. And those small components can be individual functions. Now we'll define a function using the def keyword. It's a reserved word. Essentially, it means we are defining a function with a specific name. We see here one called do nothing. And the parentheses is where if it requires something from me, that's where I give it to them. That's where I pass that value to the function. And then we've got the colon. And the colon says we're done with this statement. We've declared this function, said here's the name. And if it required something from the user, we're going to put them, whatever the requirements are, in the parentheses. So we're done with saying what it is. Now down below, indentation. It's indented like everything else that we've... Indentation's so important. So we're indented, and this one, I use the keyword pass. Because I can go define a function. But it's not done. It doesn't really exist until there's something in it. Now, if I put a comment in it, yeah, that's not anything that the program will see. That's for you to see. So it needs something in it. And if we're going to create it and initialize it, let's say kind of empty, but not truly empty, we'll put the pass keyword in there. Now, the pass keyword, that's different than what I said, passing things over to the function. This pass essentially just means nothing to see here, keep on going. It's like some person standing there inside the function and nothing's required from me, and even if something was required from me, no worries, just pass on by. Don't worry about what's happening in here. And then at a later time, we can come back and build this function out. So it's as we're mapping out or planning out our program, we can define and declare these functions and say, all right, here's where I'm going to take care of this task. And here's where I'm going to take care of this task. Do I need to actually dig deep in there and get that function working? Not yet. I can deal with that when the time comes. But I can't just leave it empty. I need to put something in it. I could put a print statement, print, and then quotation marks in the do nothing function. I could do that. It does the same thing, but that would actually do something. This does nothing. Okay. So the pass statement in Python, it can't be empty. Functions can't be empty. But we can put something in there to avoid getting an error, because the program's going to look and say, look, you started defining this function and you never finished. You never put anything in it. Pass helps us avoid that error. Pass is a null statement, essentially saying there's nothing in there. It's not like a comment. The comment, the interpreter doesn't actually see it. It ignores it totally. Pass is not ignored. It sees there's something there and says, oh, okay, you've actually started building this out. You just put an empty container of sorts in there. Okay. So with that said, once the function is declared, which we've done here, then we can call the function. Kind of like me calling my tree guy to get the job done. Sometimes you'll hear it referred to as invoking a function. Now, let me pause here for a second. Depending on the language that we're dealing with, the programming language, functions may be referred to as methods. And they both are synonymous, but depending on one author or another, like if you were taking a class in C#, you're going to see them called methods. A main method. And then functionality within it, well, that's methods as well. In Python, we call it functions. And once we have that function declared, we can call it or invoke it by executing it. And it didn't do anything. Did it return anything? No. Let's define another one, and we'll call it make a sound. It's not needing anything from me. It's empty there. What does it do? It invokes or calls another function. It's like a subcontractor. I got a contractor doing work for me. Sub the work out to somebody else. Conceptually, that's what's taking place here. I didn't give the contractor anything, but the contractor had to give the sub something. If you want to use the print statement, you need to give it something to print. So when we execute that, this is the declaration, and this is the call. So we call that function, and it did the work for us. It printed out that word, or displayed that word. Okay. Now, this one performed a task. Remember I said we have two types, performing a task. This one returns a value. So I define or declare a function called agree. And it returns something to me. It's going to return a Boolean, value of true. Then we invoke or call the print statement. And we've done that a lot previously. When we print something, we have to pass it something. What do you want to print? I passed it a function. Well, is a function something? Well, it is if it returns some value. Something's going to tangibly be there in a way. So when we execute this code, we end up with true. So we sent the agree function, the results of the agree function, over to print. The best way to look at it is we called print. So print, I need you to print something out for me. Print says, yeah, what do you need? Here's the agree function. It'll get it for you. Agree gave print that value, and then print displayed it. It's the logical flow of it. I can have a conditional if agree. Agree returned a value, and it returns a value to the place where it was called or invoked. So if I called the function here and it returned something, that something will then be where I called that function. So if I call the function says, oh, you want that? Here you go. And it drops it in the exact same place in the code where the call existed. So this is like saying if true, because we know that thing returns true. If true, print splendid. Else, that was unexpected. And we see it printed splendid. So this is an important concept. If the function returns some value, you need to know what it is and what form it's going to be in, and be ready to do something with it or use it. Okay? If you call a function and it returns some value and you do nothing with it, that's like ordering something on Amazon and them dropping the package outside your house, and you just walk on by it and ignore it like it's not even there. You need to do something with it. Take it and put it somewhere. Put it in some variable or storage space. Or do something with it like we said here. We took that true and we used it in a conditional. It's not stored anywhere. It could have been, but I don't need to have it stored. It's just quick and easy this way. I don't need to declare a variable x equals agree if x print splendid. I don't need to go through all those steps. I can be real concise with this. Okay. I'm going to call it, we're going to end this video, this first one, right here. And we're going to pick up on the next one, and we're going to talk about arguments and parameters. This shouldn't be a really deep chapter, as I said. So I'll see you in the next video.